AITA for letting my best friend wear my wedding dress from my previous marriage. Backstory. Last year, my fiancé and I were scheduled to get married. My family is toxic. My therapist suggested I not invite them, but they begged me to invite them, apologized, and gave multiple promises that they would work on themselves. I let them come to the wedding and got $24 deeper in debt to pay for it. My fiancé was paying off other debts at the time, and I paid for most of the wedding. My family ruined my wedding. They insulted my fiancé, his family, assaulted my fiancé, sexually assaulted both of us, groping, stole our wedding cake top, trashed and left wedding early, and much worse. We pressed charges on assaults. The starting of my marriage was horrible. I had to cut off my family because they wouldn't stop harassing me and my husband. He got severely depressed and almost suicidal. Cops and DV Hotline suggested he divorce me until I cut off my family for good. We divorced for safety and our sanity until I'm at least a year NC with my family. I have been in therapy and we only see each other in public or on phone. My best friend since kindergarten and her fiancé invited me and my ex to their wedding. I am a bridesmaid. Anne invited me over to try on bridesmaid dresses. Anne saw my boxed wedding dress I had from my first wedding and asked if she could try it on. I was hesitant, but I let her. She was ecstatic. Anne said she felt so beautiful in the dress, and could she wear it as her wedding dress? Anne and Steve are throwing a simple small wedding with no fancy dress. Anne looked better in the dress than I did. She definitely filled it out more and had better curves than I do. Anne was better suited than I was. Her husband-to-be, Steve, was Greek god looking with great looks and a muscular bod. I told her she was welcome to the dress as a gift from me to her. She was so happy. My ex-husband called me later and asked if I knew that my wedding dress was gone. I told him that I gave it to Anne for her wedding dress. My ex got extremely angry at me. He said I was TA for giving away my wedding dress from our marriage. He said that if we ever got married or renewed vows, that it would be more expensive to get another dress. I explained that Anne was poor and didn't have much money for a nice wedding dress. I wanted her to be happy. I told him that we are not married anymore and we might not ever be again. Anne deserved to have a great wedding. Plus, she helped me so much when my family was harassing me. She was with me when they tried to chase me down in a car. She is there for me every time I'm sad about my mom and sisters, defending me when they assaulted me at wedding, and just the best friend I need right now. My ex said I was stupid, selfish, and throwing away my money for nothing. I said it was better for her to have it instead of it collecting dust in a suitcase for years until possibly we get married again. He said I was TA, and he's getting more discouraged about us possibly having a future. I'm TA? Next story. AITA for not giving in to my roommate. IF22, rent a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment with a roommate. Alex F25. We pay the same for rent, utilities, and trash pickup, and split costs for groceries. Before, I had no issues with her, but now I feel so confused. The other night, I came home from my boyfriend's place with a paper bag that contained fancy dog treats and a new collar for my stepmom's dog. When dinner was over, I took the bag from the living room and placed it on the dining room table. My mom, F46, called me, and I walked back into the living room to talk with her privately. For some reason, Alex decided that I had left the bag out, and that meant she could help herself to the contents of the bag. When I heard the crunching, and my stepmom's dog scurried to my feet, whining and pawing at my leg, I knew exactly what she had done. I lose my cool, as I never said that she could have any of those treats, along with the prank she kept pulling by trying to steal my stepmom's dog and claiming that the dog loved her more than my stepmom. When I told her to pay for the treats she gave to the dog and trip to the store to get more, she refused, saying that this was her place, and if I didn't like her rules, then I could just move out. That was a step too far, and we have not spoken too much outside of chores unless we have Connie. Edits. 1. My stepsister has seen it herself when she left the living room to use the bathroom. When she came back, she tried to get her dog to come to her, but Alex held on to him and tried to look like a happy couple. 2. To the best of my knowledge, this specific prank of hers has been an example of just not taking no for an answer and trying to make herself look good for playing with the dog and acting upset to avoid suspicion. Next story. AITA for telling my HSX's fiancé that he's a cheater. My childhood friend, Kyle, and I had been inseparable since middle school. He became my first love, my first kiss, and my first boyfriend during our senior year. We dated for almost 2 years before it fell apart. I had just started my first year of college, 8 hours away from home. He was entering his second year of community college and decided to transfer to a university to be closer to me, just as I was preparing to return home for summer break. On my first day back, we had dinner and he told me he wanted to break up because he needed to discover himself, or some bullshit like that. About 4 to 5 months later, I found out he'd been cheating on me with a friend and broke up when he realized he wanted to date her instead. Fast forward 10 years, after going no contact, Kyle's sister called me out of the blue. Her child had a tumor, and although benign, it still required surgery and medical bills piled up fast. She needed money and started asking old friends and relatives, and I was one of those she reached out to. I obliged because I still cared about the kid and the sister, and I promptly visited them. That's how I discovered that Kyle only lived next door to his sister, and lo and behold, cheating ex-boyfriend showed up with his little fiancée in tow. The girl he cheated on me with remained elusive, rarely showing up with him at family gatherings. I casually asked his sister about his old girlfriend's whereabouts, and she disclosed they had split up 4 years ago. He left her exhausted after having 2 kids together. During this visit, fate threw an unexpected twist into the mix. Kyle's fiancée and I began chatting. She shared how they met and started dating 3 years ago when he hadn't mentioned having children. When she revealed she had met his ex, or BM as she referred to her, and expressed surprise at how incredibly pretty the BM was, I felt a pang of outrage at his douchebra antics and sympathy for her situation. The last straw was this little nugget. They met because Kyle was this girl's comm professor in her first semester of college. This was his 3rd time teaching. She was 19. It was like an epic poem of visceral revulsion, trigger after trigger after trigger. My last words to her? Girl, you need to run. He cheated on me with BM, and then turned around and cheated on her with you. So trust me, this is a pattern, and it goes deeper. Less than a week later, Kyle was confronted by his fiancée, who did not mention my involvement while telling him she knew about his wandering eye. He reached out to me in an email, telling me to mind my own business this time because he is working on changing himself. AITA for interfering. Next story. AITA for telling my brother that my wedding is child-free and his kids, who are unruly, will cause a ruckus, so they're not invited. My 32F brother, David, 35M, has 2 toddlers and a baby. I recently sent out my wedding invites to family and friends. Stuff with my brother's kids is what made me decide on child-free.